Hi everyone, welcome to Pure Burst live video. We're meeting with another family today that birthed at Pure Burst about 6 weeks ago. They're here for their final and very sad, last visit here with us. And we thought we'd do a little video so they could share a little bit about their birth journey with Pure Burst, but then of course what it was like before. Jaqueline is a mama of 6. And all her births were actually with at hospitals prior to this delivery she had with us 6 weeks ago. So we're going to ask a few questions and kind of open up to them for them both to share what their experiences were like birthing at the hospital, and then why they decided that they were going to do a home birth. Share a little bit about your, and I'll turn a little bit, share a little bit about your experiences with birthing hospitals.
Well, it was not very, it was more comfortable at home. It was nice to be able to move around as I wanted, eat what I wanted, go where I wanted. I felt more comfortable, like I didn't have this pressure on me, like this time, the clock was ticking. Literally, I mean, there's a clock in the room, and the nurses are looking at it, and they're looking at their watch, and you just feel like you have this time frame, and then there's, if things aren't moving along, everyone's kind of pushing things on you. Like for me, I was induced more than I wasn't. So I
think actually all of your births were
all but one.
All of them but one were induced.
Yeah.
Except for this little guy, you got to go into labor naturally and on your own.
Yeah.
How did that feel? Like allowing for things just to happen when they were going to happen as well. Did it release anxiety for you?
Yeah, it was empowering, and there wasn't an anxiety. I knew that, even though my water was broken for, like 16 hours, I wasn't scared about that. I wasn't nervous. I knew that, that we were in good hands, and that if he would come and, when he was ready, and I wasn't going to have anyone threatening things, like forceps or anything like that. And it was nice to have that experience. It was the best experience out of all of them.
What led you, though, to midwifery? And Robert, you got to support her in this decision that she came. And mind you, Jaqueline called me probably, 8 or 9 months before she even got pregnant. And started calling all the midwives and started asking questions and really getting everything lined up for her next pregnancy. And it's funny, we spent so much time on the phone, and then the one day when she did find out she was pregnant, she called. She's like, "Do you remember me?" And I totally did, because we spoke on the phone for so long, just because she had so many great questions, and I was knew how passionate she was about this birth needed to be different, and it needed to be a healing experience for her for sure. And so what did that look like? Did she say, okay, I'm pregnant, we're doing this differently, we're going to have a midwife, we're going to home birth, or were you considering birth center still? How did she present it to you?
Well, she wanted to do home birth, the last one with Lee, and she wanted to go to the hospital afterwards, but she chickened out on that. But yeah, I was supportive with whatever she wanted to do, because it's up to her. If she wants to go to the hospital, I'm for it. If not, I like the experience much better at home.
Yeah. How did it differ for you as a dad, seeing, when you're going to a hospital, I do hear from some families, and dads too, that there's a sense of safety and security, knowing that your wife and your baby, if anything goes wrong, you're in a hospital setting. There's an OR there. They have, there's doctors there. How safe did you feel knowing that, okay, we're going to be at home? Like, if anything goes wrong, how is this going to be handled differently? Was there any sense of fear or security in that?
I wasn't really too concerned about birthing at home. I get more anxiety in the hospital than, than not. And there's, it's bright lights and noise and, a lot of, pressure from the doctor and nurses and stuff. If you're not progressing, we got to go and introduce, something else, Pitocin or something. You're not doing it fast enough. So doctors in the hospital was just a lot of anxiety, and at home it was just so much more relaxed. I wasn't really too worried about, because there's a hospital close by. And,
if you did need it.
Yeah, wasn't worried at all, after 6 kids.
And you got put to work, blowing up the tub, filling it up.
He was my doula.
Yeah. So, going back into the prenatal care, you were here, which I think is amazing, that we really love when dads come to prenatal visits, and you came to almost every single prenatal visit.
I think you missed one.
And I love that. So it's not only you're getting midwifery care, you were getting the midwifery care, and you knew everything that was happening every step of the way, and you weren't left out of any of it. So I think that was awesome. So you're one of the only dads that has come to almost all of them. So I think that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
The dad's gonna care.
So how was your midwifery care? Do they take good care of you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
He felt like he was a part of it because he got to listen for the baby's heartbeat, and he got to be able to, things that I forgot or concerns that he had his own concerns. He was able to address them too. So he felt like it was not just me; it was for him too. I mean, it's his baby, so.
Exactly. And you did. You would bring in questions. Or things you were concerned with Jaqueline, like, I know she's stressing out over X, Y, and Z, so we could all talk about it and work through it together.
Right.
All right. And so, and as far as midwifery care, how do you think it differed for you from being with an OB versus being able to be here?
You're just a patient. You're just a name to them. Here, it's like you feel like you're a person, and you feel like you're building a relationship. And I was thinking last night that you're not just a midwife. You're like, there's like a bond that's there forever. Like, that's how I feel anyways. It's like we went through this thing, this big thing together, life coming into the world. And, it's kind of, I'm going to get sad now. Kind of coming to an end, but it was just, I knew you were there just a phone call away if I needed anything. I didn't feel like if I called up, you're like, okay, Jack, like I would call the doctor's office and they'd answer the phone. Oh, yes, Jaqueline, okay. I'm like, how do they know it's me? I felt like I was a bother, like I was a burden for calling and having concerns. And this time, even though it was my 6th one, there were still concerns, and I didn't feel like I was a bother or a problem. It's just, you feel like you're loved and you're cared for, and not just me, the baby. The doctor didn't even really notice. I went to one appointment after the baby was born, a 6-week checkup. And they didn't even really look at the baby. And it's like, don't you want to see the baby? Aren't you like excited to see the baby? This baby that you delivered, And that was kind of a disappointment. But coming here and you guys actually love and care for the baby too. And that was special for me.
We do. And then Jordan, our student midwife, tries to take every baby and put it in her personal leave with them. She loves those babies. So that's awesome. So tell me a little bit quickly, how your birth went, because we were just not sure how we obviously had so many different scenarios. I'm like, well, this happened and that might happen, and then how did it happen in a nutshell?
Well, it started slow, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be easy, because I had the contractions that were, timed, and they were there, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is. They're uncomfortable, but I can handle this. And I think my mind frame was different, where I was like, I got this. It's going to be, And then it was, 3 days, 2 or 3 days. And then my water broke.
A prodromal, what we call prodromal labor, where she's getting contractions, and they come into a pattern, and then they kind of drift away, and then they teeter,
the kids would
they go away,
and they'd stop.
She'd get a good contraction pattern, and then the kids would come home from school, and she's like, they stopped.
Mom,
mom brain has to take over. It wasn't ready to labor, so she did that on and off.
Yeah. So and then you guys were so patient though, and I remember being nervous. Like,
oh yeah, because we came over the day before.
And you
we thought it was go time. The day before, and we went over to the house and set up everything ready for the home birth, and we kind of hung out with her for a while.
That was nice.
And then we realized, well,
that's not happening.
No, we thought maybe later that night, and so we left all of our equipment there and just ready. And peace of mind too, because I think it's in a mom's head too, like, oh, if a midwife comes and then takes all their stuff, oh, this isn't happening, and then they have a lot of you know, mind chatter of like, oh wow, this is really not going to happen. So I felt it was important for us to leave the stuff. She knows we're coming back, and that this is going to happen.
Yeah, and that was exciting.
Yeah,
It was cool seeing the stuff there, even though it didn't happen right away. The fact that everything was still there, and you guys were calling to check on me, but there wasn't like this air of like, you better do this soon. Like I felt like I could just go about my life and walk around and eat and be with my family, and it's like it was baby time, but it wasn't yet.
Right.
It was cool. It was exciting. And then when it
was brewing.
Happened,
it was brewing.
Yeah. And then when my water broke, and I was like, all right, you know, the next step. But that was kind of a long journey, and I was really thankful that I knew that he was coming, but I didn't have to, you know, because that was with my son. It was a long labor too, and my water was broken for quite some time. And then we went into the hospital, and then they pretty much pushed being induced on me.
Right.
And then I wanted to do it natural with him, so I was still trying while I was having the Pitocin, which was evil. That was a bad idea. But with him, it was like, no pressure, no concern. You guys were checking in, so I felt like I had that line of communication so that if I did have any concerns or fears, like I didn't feel like I had to go to the hospital.
No, there was no need to. So if a mom's water breaks, we know that the baby's already in an optimal position. When the water breaks, the fluid's clear, the baby's still moving. We have the moms check their temperature on a regular basis to make sure that there are no obvious signs of infection. We're pretty patient with the baby coming.
Yeah.
I have my guidelines here for our how we work this practice, but every midwife is a little bit different. But there's a lot of patience as long as mom and baby are doing well, and that was the situation. You were doing just fine. Yeah. We just needed to wait for some strong contractions, and they came.
Yeah, they did. That was probably the shortest period of all of it. Which I looking back, I'm happy that was fast, because I can't imagine being in active labor for hours on end or pushing for hours on end. It's just or that.
Yeah. So,
and I was happy for that pool.
Remind me about. I know when I spoke to you, but you were. What do you think? Like the time that they were really active contractions till the time you delivered.
It was about 10 o'clock when we started walking around the neighborhood.
It was 9.
Yeah, it was 9 or 10. Yeah, we decided to go for a walk, and then he's like, oh look, we have some friends that live on the street. We were down, and he was like, do you want to go say hi? And I was like, no, I don't think it's, we were going to, and I'm like, you know what, I had to stop.
Right.
And that's when I knew. I was like, oh yeah, I knew. And then you happened to call when we were on that walk.
Yes.
So.
And he was popping jokes.
Yeah, and I was like, this isn't funny.
Because I told you to keep walking through the contractions, and you're like, walk, Jaqueline. Walk through it. Right. And then, and then you, is that when I decided to come after the walk, or you called me back?
It was a few
It
hours
was when I was
later.
locking myself in the bathroom.
That's what it was.
Like,
She locks herself in the bathroom. I'm like, that's not a good idea when you're in labor. You might have
Don't do that. Don't do that.
In the bathroom, and nobody knows.
Yeah, that might have almost happened.
Yeah,
I was glad
it's
you
pretty
were there.
close.
Glad you were there.
So you called and said things were really active, and you're like, well, I guess you could come, and I'm like, I'm coming. I just felt it in me. I'm like, I don't care how long I have to sit there, or if it's another day, I'm going.
I was so undecided. I was like, I don't know.
So I pulled up.
Yep.
And parked the car in front of their house, and I could hear her from out front moaning. And I was like, oh boy.
Oh, it's not a quiet.
And the good thing is all of our stuff was already there.
Yeah, that was great.
And so
you didn't have the time to set up.
You were getting in the water. And you thought you needed to use the restroom.
Yes,
and I'm like, no, that's your baby.
I was like, nope, I gotta go. She's like, are you sure? I'm like,
And then you had to convince me that no, you didn't. You'd use the
I
restroom.
love that part when you guys are walking me back to the pool and you're like this. I love that part. In my mind, that's like the funniest part of it all.
I used to use the restroom, and I'm like, you really don't have to use the restroom in the way she thought she needed to use the restroom. I'm like, it's your baby's head. But I'm gonna listen to her. She's the mama. So the head, she's like crowning almost. And I was like, okay, if you want to have a water birth, let's get back in the water.
Yeah, I made it very clear. I said, please don't let me give birth on the toilet. I don't want that experience. And then if it wasn't for them, I would have given birth on the toilet.
Then we made it quickly back to the water, and she kind of navigated some positions, right?
Yeah, I wanted to I felt like it was but you needed to hear the baby, so that was important to me but it was weird because my body was shut in this mode of like, no, I need to lean over the tub like that. I could feel like that was
that felt the most comfortable? Yeah.
In like a squatting kind of type position. And then, definitely not laying back in a hospital bed. I don't know how we ever give birth like that. That's so constrictive. And you know, I heard like when you're in a squatting position, it opens up your hips. I think it's like 30% more or something like that.
And allows your pelvis to open up. And so you had two more contractions in the water. I think we had a head, and then
it seemed like one giant one for me, but
maybe it was.
I told my husband, I said, these are not going away.
Right. Going down, and
he was timing them, and they were just like the mountain would just
keep going.
So I think I made it there. I mean, obviously in time. By this. You know, I think 7 minutes from me walking in until the baby.
I probably should have had you come sooner,
but you know what? What's beautiful about this is that everything was all right. He was just fine, and you did this on your own. So I think, if anything, this was the most empowering journey for you both. You did this together. It shows you that a care provider is important. A care provider was there for the birth. If I could have been there earlier, I would have. But that you felt safe enough within yourself and in trusting in the experience that you got to that point before you come. You know?
Well, you were there in the important part. Because I don't remember after when he was coming out, Robert said, because I asked him going back, I'm like, did I reach in and pull him out? And he goes, no, she did. And I was like, thankful that you were there to do that, because I think part of me just kind of, I don't know where I went, but I know that I was wishing for an outer body experience. So maybe I could have.
If I remember correctly, our assistant's videoing. Do you have nuchal hand? Yeah, nuchal hand. So hand. So that's why we helped his arm out and helped him out, and then he went right up.
I do remember you saying that his hand was up there, and I was thinking, oh man, this is gonna hurt. I wouldn't do it any different though. Like I would not. If you were able to go back in time, I would still do it at home and do the exact,
same thing. Right? Yeah. It's intense, but it's you live, right?
Yeah.
And you're an experience, and how great you looked amazing after.
Really?
You looked phenomenal after. Let's tap into a little bit about the postpartum period. Because that was always a tough patch. Postpartum.
I deal with I've always had really bad postpartum depression, like really scary. I had to be medicated with my last son, and then come to find out the medicine that I was taking wasn't really safe for breastfeeding, because I like to breastfeed for a year afterwards, and I felt kind of in the dark on all that and misguided. And so this experience has been the best as far as that goes, because I can truly say, no, that was just the baby blues, and now I'm fine, and I don't feel like I'm being robbed of the experience. And I definitely feel that it was my prenatal care and the birthing experience, the fact that it was in my home, and I wasn't being hooked up to, I wasn't my labor wasn't being induced, having those fake hormones in my body. Afterwards you're all shaky and you just feel like you've come off of something horrible.
Do you think midwifery care, though, could be a real strong asset for women that struggle with postpartum depression?
Definitely.
Because there's, I know definitely in our community of midwives, and I can't speak for all midwives in all states and across the world, but definitely our community midwives, we give a lot of care postpartum, right? It's you have the delivery, and then we're seeing you. I see you 24 to 36 hours. Not every midwife does that, but it's kind of similar. Up to 3 days, some midwives, and then the 1 week, the 3 week, the 6 week, to be able to have somebody to check in on a regular basis, and for dad know that he can reach out too, and it's not a call center, and it's not a nurse that's like, I'm not sure, I'll have the doctor call you back.
You're just a text message away.
Right. So I think that's beautiful, to know that these families that might need that extra support.
And you cared beforehand. It was never discussed at our doctor's appointments. It was never brought up. It was never. I talked about doing my placenta with my first son, and it was kind of frowned upon, and it sort of seemed like it was a silly thing, and we were kind of embarrassed to do it, so we didn't do it. We did not do it. And this time around, it was like, okay, we're gonna do that, and it was very accepting. And
so she did encapsulate as well. So we were trying to think of all the ways that we
planned for this months ahead. I think right away we were talking about it. I laid it all out, and I felt comfortable to do so. I didn't feel like crazy or scared or, I went in to see my doctor at the 6-week appointment with postpartum depression, and he goes, so who do you want to kill? I'm like, that made me a little nervous. I'm like, well, I'm not going to say anything to that. But
And then they medicate you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying this isn't to dismiss that women don't need medication if they truly do have postpartum depression or tiptoeing into postpartum psychosis. They absolutely need the resources and extra care. But our thought process on this was perhaps this somewhat mild postpartum depression that she had experienced in these past pregnancies was probably due to her birth experience, maybe birth trauma coming forth, and then not having, the proper care. I think postpartum of a mom being, moms have different needs, right? And being able to talk and know, and setting up a plan was important. Making sure we had people coming over and talking to church. Robert being around, calling me at any time. Balance,
just being
hormones,
prepared, I think,
supplements. Your placenta capsules, like all these different, support systems in different ways. And it's been beautiful to see you smiling.
The healing has been better too.
Right.
I mean, you actually let my placenta deliver. My last 2 births were, my placenta was just pulled out of me, just manually. Whole arm just pulled out, and that was hard for him to see too. It was physically painful and weird for me, and at the same time it was hard for him to watch because he could see that I had just given birth, and then here I am having my placenta just pulled out instead of waiting for it to come out. We were both, the fact that I got to just deliver my placenta naturally afterwards was pretty cool for both of us. And because I was feeling also like maybe I was broken and something was wrong. And I remember expressing that to Tiffany that, I don't know if my placenta is going to come, what will we do? And she told me what we would do, and she wasn't even worried about it, which made us not worry about it. And then, it did. It came out on its own, which is really cool.
And that mattered so much to you about a placenta. Knowing that it could happen on its own. Right?
I could do that on my own. I'm like, so so that was nice. And I think that also the healing, I had a lot of cramping way past the 6-week mark, and I think it was from having my placenta manually taken out. So
it's possible.
You never know, but I'm happy.
And the birth experience in itself, the extra hormones from an induction. There's a lot of factors.
And that I wasn't, strapped to a bed. Once you're doing that, they don't really let you walk around, and they don't like you to eat things. It's like you're hungry and you're tired, and you're in this hospital room that's cold, and and he's laying on a chair, So.
Now, how was that climbing into the bed, the family bed? Because after you delivered, before we left, we got you guys up into your bedroom.
That was cool.
How was it having a family bed?
It was neat.
It was different, right?
It was different, It was nice. I didn't feel so lonely. I had to stay 2 days with Lee in the hospital, and so the first night he was able to stay with me, but the second night I had to stay alone, and that was when the actual postpartum hit me with my son. Was the second night was bad. I think it was because I was alone. I was at home, and it was quiet, and the hospital room was just depressing, and it was just I'm like thinking, you go to the hospital when there's something wrong, not when everything is right, everything's good. It's being treated.
So I tell everybody, and I have it written in the front, birth is not an illness, right? For low risk mamas, they should really consider midwifery care, in birth centers or home births. It may be an option for you on your delivery. Do you guys have anything closing to say to the public? And thank you for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
It was a good one.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
You want to have more now.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Number 10.
We're good.
What?
We're here.
It's been great.
We love you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. You guys can replay the video and watch it. If you have any questions for Jaqueline or Robert about their birth experience, or any questions directed to the midwife about anything you heard about their story, please feel free to just go ahead and put it down below, and we'll get back to you. All right, thank you again for sharing with Pure Birth Live.